Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. Governor, we'll get to all that voting stuff in just a minute, but first I want to talk about the folks in Newnan, Georgia. A tornado ripped through there on Friday. Saw some pictures, some friends of mine. Severe damage there, of course. Give us an update on how the recovery effort is going.
Well, I think it's going very well. Certainly our thoughts and prayers continue to go out. Those people were hit very hard. We got to get over there Saturday to tour the damage, went to the high school, and it just was a massive storm. There's only been 10 F4 tornadoes in the last 50 years, and this was the 10th one. So it's a devastating storm. It's a miracle that we only lost one life, which is one too many. And really, that was a medical emergency because of the storm response. But regardless, very tragic for that family. But there's a lot of people on the ground. We have a tremendous state response. The locals are just working very hard, just tons of volunteers over there. Our corporate partners from here in the state and from others are on the ground helping as well. So it's heartwarming to see, but they have a lot of work to do.
They certainly do, and I saw that Sprayberry Barbecue is open. Regular hours are serving food now. I've been there many times. It's some good stuff. If anybody can support them, they are out.
Me too.
It's a must stop if you are ever in Newnan, Georgia. You got to stop there and get that barbecue. It's good stuff. But let's get back to the voting issue that President Biden's perpetuating here. A lot of the media is perpetuating here. They want everybody to believe that no one's allowed water at these polling stations. That's just simply not true. Why does this, though, continue to get perpetuated as the fact about this voting law?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You know, the big lie is a good way to put it. This bill makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat, which has always been the case in Georgia. I've worked very hard for a long time for us to have secure, accessible, fair elections in our state.
Another thing, too, that I think the national media gets wrong, and I don't know if they're trying to get this wrong or they just don't understand, you don't set up these polling locations. You don't determine the rules or what is inside these polling locations. Those are determined by local officials. But you would think that you're the one who has your thumb on every single precinct in Georgia.
Well, and that's the way the Constitution sets it up here in Georgia. Our counties run the election. The Secretary of State is the administrator of those elections, but we have county election boards, bipartisan, in every county in the state, and it's been that way for a long time. But I don't think the national media, this is all part of their playbook, working with all these third-party groups that are profiting off of this. The whole domain name Jim Crow 2.0 was reserved weeks ago. So this has been in their playbook, regardless of what passed in the bill. So they don't want to talk about what's actually in the bill because it's a very fair bill, continues to have great access. You mentioned President Biden. Georgia's voting laws, we have a lot more access to early voting than Joe Biden's home state of Delaware does.
Well, that's another inconvenient truth, I guess you can say, about this voting law, is it really brings Georgia into the 21st century, if you will, and it's more consistent now with a lot of other states that have these same types of regulations in place. But, another point you brought up, which I think is important, is a lot of the real problems that folks had with this bill. The Georgia State, the senators have backed off of those positions here. This Georgia law, if you took Georgia away from it, you took Stacey Abrams out of this discussion, it would be pretty benign.
Yeah, and makes sense. I mean, the legislature, I think, did a great job. It's interesting to see yesterday the national media and everybody that's protesting and demonstrating about how bad this is, even though they're not talking about what's actually in the bill and talking about how it was rushed through and signed very quickly. Well, we're down to the last 2 days of our legislative session. Speaker Ralston put a committee to look at voting issues together shortly after the election. The General Assembly was working on this even before our legislative session started in the middle of January, and they've continued to do that. So there's been a lot of thought. You mentioned that the Senate had a bill, the House had a bill. Over the last week or so, those two bodies have been negotiating what will be in the final package in conjunction with things that, our office was interested in. Like, I was one of the first ones to call on the photo ID requirement for absentee ballots by mail here. But also it will speed up the process and make it more efficient so we get timely elections results, which is what people want.
And just to be clear, you have to show your ID to get vaccinated in Georgia, right? You still have to show your ID to buy a gun in Georgia. These are also inconvenient truths that a lot of people don't want to realize.
Oh, absolutely. And, we've had that requirement in Georgia for voting in person, which 95% of the people normally do in Georgia up until this election because of COVID and other things that were going on. But it's no different that if you want to fly through an airport or many, many other things. And we've had where Georgia would give you a free voter ID since I think 2006 or 2007.
Right.
97% or 99% of voters already have an ID. And believe it or not, even though the mainstream media won't say it, if you don't have one, there's still a way that you can get an absentee ballot.
It is amazing that you don't hear Democrats talking more about that as a proactive way to avoid being disenfranchised, is the, opportunities and accessibility to helping these folks get IDs if they do in fact need them. Now, of course, there's been fallout from signing this bill. Almost immediately after you signed the bill, we saw the demonstration there by Representative Park Cannon, a Democratic state lawmaker from Georgia. She was arrested. We've also heard about folks calling for the Major League Baseball All-Star game to be taken out of Georgia. It's going to be in Cobb County this year, just north of Atlanta. Also, folks saying they should cancel the Masters, which you can't obviously take out of Georgia because it's so incumbent on the golf course there. But, do you anticipate further backlash or fallout from signing this bill?
It's unreal that this group and these different groups that are calling on these things and people that are profiting off of this whole mistruth that's out there are also trying to get people to boycott Georgia businesses in the middle of a pandemic. And you think about what they're going to boycott, whether it's Major League Baseball, a golf tournament. I mean, the people that those events help are going to be people that serve food and beverage, companies like Coca-Cola, the hardworking people that are working in the stadium serving those great products. That's who it's going to hurt. And that's who they're trying to hurt with this rhetoric. But they're not even talking about the truths that are in the bill. And I hope that working Georgians and people will see through this and really compare and fact check perhaps Georgia to Delaware and see who has more restrictive voting and see who has really good measures to secure the vote of every Georgian. I mean, that is what we should thrive for. And that's what we're doing here in Georgia. It's ridiculous that they're doing this. I can tell you that the Masters is not going to bow to that. They just don't get involved in politics. And the women's amateur is going on there right now. I think we're going to have a great week at Augusta. And obviously, you can't play the Masters if you're not playing it in Augusta. So I look forward to the rest of the world watching that on TV. And listen, I saw a tweet the other day that said to get your tickets to a Major League Baseball game through Ticketmaster or whoever it is, that you have to show a photo ID. So I think as everyone really learns what's actually in the bill, I think a lot of this will die down, and hopefully people will punish the folks that are spreading these lies and mistruths and call them out for what they really are. It has nothing to do with policy. It has to do with a financial benefit for them and their organizers.
I think some people are just a little concerned, too, about the Braves starting lineup. They're going to have so many people representing them in the All-Star game. It's going to look like, a Braves home game this year there at Truist Park. All right, let's talk about kind of the elephant in the room, and that's the future of the GOP in Georgia and your relationship with President Trump. Specifically, Congressman Jody Hice is looking to unseat Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State's race in 2022. I would imagine you're going to face a lot of heat from Trump-loyal candidates as well in your race, which is also coming up in 2022. How do you see this, and are you preparing for what you're about to face?
Well, we're definitely preparing. I'm looking forward to running on my record. I've said that a long time. You think about conservative causes and fighting for less regulations, a great economy, passing the heartbeat bill amidst pressure that was much like I'm seeing right now. We never wavered on that. Working on health care reform in Georgia. And a lot of those policies are the reason I supported and worked so hard for President Trump in his reelection campaign, because those work. I mean, we're seeing the dismantling of our southern border right now because the Biden administration, I guess, is too proud to own up to the fact that the President Trump's policies worked. Joe Biden gets in office and he's canceling contracts for thousands of jobs across our country. And, that's just the wrong way to go, in my opinion. Our state, we're the #1 state in the country for business. Our economy continues to do very well. And it's because we lined up on a lot of those policies. And, I've talked to my wife many times. She's really been doubling down and working hard on human trafficking issues, adoption reform, and other things here in our state, really feeding off of what President Trump, Ivanka, Bill Barr, and many other people were working at the national level. And that's what we got to continue to do. But
Well, there is a huge overlap, on policy issues, things like that. But obviously, there is a gulf between you and the president on personal issues. Is there any circumstance where you can see a coalescence, if you will, coming back together? And if so, what do you think that would take for him to see from you in order to mend those fences?
Well, listen, I can honestly say this. I've been a strong supporter of the president. I worked very hard for him. I supported everything he was doing within the law after the election, but also had to follow the laws and the constitutions of this state. That is what conservatives do. That's what we ask when we put justices on the Supreme Court. That's what I'm looking for when I appoint judges to the state Supreme Court or the state Court of Appeals here in Georgia. And I've never said anything bad about the president. I work very hard for him. I believe in his policies. I think we're seeing that contrast right now. For all those people that are out there that saying, well, you got to have it one way or another, I disagree with that. I think this is a great opportunity for the Republican Party to come together, win the House back, throw Speaker Pelosi out of that position, retake the Senate by winning the Senate race here in Georgia, and uniting around really just the cancel culture that is out there that we're seeing on this election bill now. And I want to thank President Biden and the Democrats for allowing Republicans to start coming together to really fight the good fight and remember, of who the opposition is. And it is the liberal Democrats that have just, basically taken something and putting Joe Biden, and they're tagging him even further to the left than he actually campaigned on, even though he wanted to say he wanted to unite the country. That's certainly not happening.
Well, we'll end on this question for you, Governor. 2022 is going to be a big year, too, because of a Senate race. I know Senator Perdue is interested potentially, maybe is, maybe not. Who knows at this point? You also have Kelly Loeffler sitting out there, Doug Collins as well. Do you have a favorite, someone who you think is the best Republican to win back that seat?
Yeah, I'm kind of like everybody else right now. I'm kind of watching the name dropping that's out there. I've visited with Congressman Collins the other day. I was with Senator Loeffler over the weekend. She's still working very hard on the ground on registration and monitoring efforts to make sure we continue to be in a good position to win in 2022, regardless of who the nominees are. I was texting or emailing back and forth with Senator Perdue over the last 2 or 3 days, and I know I was with Congressman Drew Ferguson, whose name's been out there, and a lot of other folks that are really good people, and we'll see how that shakes out. But regardless, we've got to come together on that ticket in 2022, put the best people forward, and make sure that we win.
Yeah, we know what a divided GOP and the results that come from that. We saw that in 2020. Governor Kemp, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Good to be on with you. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.